I don't think this. It doesn't look like a pyramid to me.
It looks like a hill.
Yeah. How old is this pyramid?
Oh, 800 years before Jesus Christ.
Wow.
For centuries, it was mistaken for a mere hill crowned by a humble church, a peaceful rise in the heart of Mexico. Yet beneath that quiet facade hides the greatest pyramid ever built, buried under layers of earth and time.
Cholula is near Puebla, which is east of Mexico City, a couple of hours east, and it has the largest pyramid in the world. It's bigger than the Great Pyramid, it's bigger than any other ones.
Now, as scientists peel back its secrets, the world watches in disbelief. Hidden tunnels stretch into darkness, sealed chambers hum with mystery, and discoveries emerge that defy everything we thought we knew about history.
So the archaeologists actually built these tunnels in the pyramid.
That's right.
How much of the pyramid has actually been discovered?
Maybe 20%.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Something ancient is awakening beneath Cholula, and what it reveals may redefine the very idea of civilization itself. The man-made mountain. Nestled in Puebla, Mexico, lies the town of Cholula. At its center stands what appears to be a natural hill, crowned by the bright yellow facade of the Iglesia de Nuestra Señora de los Remedios. For generations, this seemed to be exactly what it was, a peaceful hill with a church, but the hill itself is the artifact. For over 2,000 years, this very spot has been a sacred crossroads, a place of profound spiritual significance. The entire ancient city was carefully laid out as a reflection of the cosmos, a sacred map meant to connect the earth with the heavens. And at the very center of this spiritual universe stood its beating heart, what appeared to be a simple, natural hill. This was a great illusion. For generations, people looked at this rise in the land and saw only what was on the surface, gentle, grass-covered slopes, and at the very top, the bright yellow facade of the Iglesia de Nuestra Señora de los Remedios. The church, built by Spanish colonists, seemed to crown a peaceful hill. It was a beautiful, unassuming picture that hid an unbelievable secret. The very ground beneath that church was not carved by nature, but by human hands. The hill itself was the artifact. The pyramid was so old and so thoroughly reclaimed by the environment that it achieved the ultimate camouflage. It became a part of the natural landscape, hiding in plain sight for centuries. The reality, once uncovered, is almost impossible to grasp. This is not just a pyramid, it is a man-made mountain. To understand its sheer size, we have to talk numbers. The Great Pyramid of Cholula stretches approximately 300 meters on each side. That is so wide it could easily cover several modern city blocks. In height, it stands about 66 meters tall, but here is the truly mind-bending part, its incredible volume. While the famous Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt is taller, the pyramid at Cholula is vastly wider at its base. When you calculate all the material packed inside it, the volume exceeds 4.45 million cubic meters. To visualize this, the base covers approximately 450 by 450 meters, large enough to fit 9 soccer fields side by side. Giza's Great Pyramid contains about 2.5 million cubic meters. Cholula contains nearly twice that volume. This makes it the largest single monument ever built anywhere in the world, more massive than even the Great Pyramid of Giza. Imagine a structure so vast that it could swallow another of the world's most famous pyramids and still have room left over. This was not just a building project. It was a geological event created by people. This volume represents an almost unimaginable human effort. The pyramid is primarily constructed from sun-dried adobe bricks, millions upon millions of them. Each brick was hand-formed from mud and straw, left to bake in the sun, and then carried to the site. The labor involved wasn't the work of a single lifetime, but of countless generations, each adding their own layer to the growing mountain. Adobe bricks dissolve in rain and crumble under pressure. That a structure this massive, built from sun-dried mud, has survived over 2,000 years required continuous maintenance across generations. The oldest sections date to approximately 300 BCE. This wasn't built by a single king for his tomb, but by a continuous civilization for a purpose that transcended any individual ruler. The ancient people who lived here knew exactly what it was. They did not call it a hill. They gave it a powerful and precise name, Tlachihualtepetl. This wonderful word from the Nahuatl language translates directly to constructed mountain or artificial mountain. They knew it was not a work of nature, but a work of their own ancestors, a project of such immense scale and devotion that it had literally become part of the landscape. The name itself is a clue that was waiting for centuries to be understood. This was never a hill. It was always a mountain, built by people, a testament to a civilization that believed their sacred duty was to literally build a new world from the ground up. It was the center of their universe, a permanent, undeniable anchor of their culture and faith. But who were the people capable of creating such a colossal, sacred mountain, and how did they build a monument? The civilizations who built it. The true magic of the Great Pyramid of Cholula isn't just its size, but its secret structure. Imagine one of those Russian nesting dolls, where you open one figure to find a slightly smaller one inside, and then another, and another. Now, imagine that in stone, and on the scale of a mountain. That is the fundamental secret of this place. It is not one pyramid, but at least 6, each built perfectly over the last, creating a single colossal monument over 1,000 years. This was not a project of one king or one culture, but a sacred collaboration across centuries. The story begins around 300 years before Christ, in a world very different from our own. The first people to shape this sacred site were the Olmec-Sri-Lanka. They did not set out to build a giant pyramid. They started with a more modest ceremonial platform, a place of worship dedicated to the natural forces that governed their world. They chose this location carefully, a place they believed held unique power. Using adobe bricks and local stone, they laid the first foundation, the innermost and smallest doll in our nesting set. This initial structure, begun around 300 BCE and developing until roughly 200 AD, was the seed from which the artificial mountain would eventually grow. Then, between 200 and 600 AD, a new influence arrived, one that would dramatically change the pyramid's destiny. This was the time of Teotihuacan, the massive city-state located to the north, home to the mighty pyramid of the sun and moon. The influence of this vast metropolitan power was felt strongly in Cholula. Rather than destroying the existing structure, the builders, now under Teotihuacan's cultural sway, decided to encase it. They enlarged it, enveloping the old pyramid in a magnificent new shell. This phase introduced a signature architectural style called the talud tablero. It's a simple but powerful design. A sloping wall, called the talud, is topped by a vertical panel, called the tablero. This distinct look, like a series of bold geometric steps, connected Cholula, visually and spiritually, to the great power of Teotihuacan. It was a statement of belonging to a wider, sophisticated world. The pyramid was growing, not just in size, but in cultural importance, becoming a major regional center. After the decline of Teotihuacan, Cholula entered its own golden age during what is known as the post-classic period, from about 800 to 1200 AD. Now it was the Toltecs and other local groups who took up the mantle of builders. During this time, the pyramid reached its final gargantuan size. They added more layers, more facades, expanding the structure outward until it achieved the immense footprint we know today. Cholula itself became a renowned metropolis, a bustling city, and one of the most important pilgrimage sites in all of Mesoamerica. Its fame was tied to its primary deity, the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl, the god of wind, wisdom, and life itself. Pilgrims would travel from vast distances to visit this holy city and its central pyramid, which was now the heart of a thriving religious and commercial empire. The pyramid was no longer just a temple, it was a destination. Finally, we come to the Aztecs. By the time their empire rose to power from 1200 AD onwards, the Great Pyramid of Cholula was already ancient. The Aztecs did not build it, they inherited it. They looked upon this colossal man-made mountain with deep reverence and awe when they arrived in the region. They named it Tlachihualtepetl, the man-made mountain, and they wove it into their own mythology. They believed it was constructed by a mythological giant named Zelwa, who survived a great flood and built the pyramid to reach the heavens. For the Aztecs, it was a sacred link to a legendary past, a place of such power that it predated their own civilization. They came as pilgrims, not as builders, adding their own layer of worship to the site until the Spanish arrival in 1519. This incredible timeline, with one culture building over another, reveals a profound truth about the ancient world that we often miss. This was not a story of constant destruction, where new rulers wipe out the old. Instead, it was a story of cultural continuity and profound respect. Why did each civilization preserve rather than destroy what came before? In Mesoamerican religious practice, sacred sites accumulated spiritual power over time. Demolishing a temple meant losing that accumulated sacredness. By carefully encasing the previous structure, builders claimed legitimacy as rightful inheritors while preserving the site's power. Each layer was both preservation and renewal. This philosophy, that greatness comes from building upon rather than erasing the past, contrasts sharply with other conquest patterns where new rulers typically demolished predecessors' monuments. Conquest and concealment. In 1519, the city of Cholula was at the height of its power. It was a thriving metropolis, one of the largest and most important in all of Mesoamerica. Its streets buzzed with market traders, its temples echoed with prayers, and pilgrims flocked to its sacred precincts. The Great Pyramid, though already ancient and likely covered in vegetation, remained the spiritual heart of the city. This vibrant world was about to collide with a force it could never have imagined. That force was Hernán Cortés and his band of Spanish conquistadors. They arrived in Cholula alongside thousands of their new allies, the Tlaxcalans, who were long-standing enemies of the Cholulans. At first, the city welcomed the strangers, but tensions simmered. The Spanish, paranoid and suspicious, became convinced the Cholulans were planning an ambush. What happened next was a calculated act of terror that would forever stain the history of the conquest. Cortés gave a signal. In the city's main ceremonial square, his soldiers turned on their hosts. They blocked the exits and, with their Tlaxcalan allies, began a methodical slaughter. For hours, the killing continued. Thousands of Cholula's nobility, priests and citizens were cut down. This event, known as the Cholula Massacre, was a brutal message. It was designed to shatter the spirit of the region and demonstrate the terrible price of resisting the Spanish advance. The sacred city had been profaned. In the decades that followed, the Spanish set about building a new world upon the ruins of the old. This brings us to the church on the hill. It was constructed in 1594, long after the dust had settled. The reason for its location was not to hide a secret, but to proclaim a victory. This practice is known as supersessionism, the symbolic act of placing your new god directly on top of the old ones. By building the Iglesia de Nuestra Señora de los Remedios on the summit of what they saw as a hill, the Spanish were making a powerful statement. They were claiming the landscape for Christianity. The church was a permanent, unmissable symbol of their dominance, visually and spiritually overshadowing the ancient city below. Every time a local person looked up, they would see the symbol of the new order standing triumphantly on what had once been their most sacred ground. A common myth suggests the Spanish actively buried the pyramid to conceal it. The truth, however, is more subtle, and in many ways, more tragic. By the time the Spanish arrived, the Great Pyramid was already centuries old. Its adobe brick surface had been weathered by rain and wind. Seeds had taken root, and a thick layer of soil and vegetation had naturally covered it. Time itself had already turned the man-made mountain into a hill. The Spanish didn't need to bury it. Nature already had. They simply saw a large, stable hill in a strategically perfect location and chose to crown it. This act cemented the pyramid's false identity for centuries. The church locked the ancient structure in place, both physically and in the imagination of the people. The world's largest pyramid didn't vanish. It simply went to sleep, waiting silently beneath its new crown for a future generation to rediscover the truth hidden beneath the grass and faith. Unearthing a lost giant. To everyone who lived nearby, and to the Spanish colonists who built their church on its summit, the Great Pyramid was simply El Cerrito, the little hill. The memory of the man-made mountain had faded into myth, a whisper from a lost world. But the giant was not lost. It was just sleeping, waiting for someone to finally see it for what it was. Over time, a few clues surfaced. Farmers would find strange old pottery fragments in the soil. Heavy rains would sometimes wash away dirt, revealing sections of cut stone that didn't look natural. But for a long time, these signs were ignored, explained away as oddities. The hill was a hill, and that was that. The real awakening didn't happen in a single dramatic moment. It was a slow, careful process of unraveling a mystery, piece by piece. The definitive breakthrough began in 1931, thanks to the vision and determination of a Mexican archaeologist named Ignacio Marquina. He looked at the hill and saw what others did not, piecing together the local stories and the physical clues. He became convinced a monumental structure was hidden inside, but he faced a huge and delicate problem. How do you excavate a pyramid that has a 400-year-old church sitting on top of it? You couldn't just tear it down. It was an active place of worship and a historic landmark in its own right. So, Marquina devised a brilliant and unconventional plan. If he couldn't dig up, he would dig in. He decided to tunnel directly into the heart of the mound. It was the only way to explore the structure without disturbing the church above. Think of it like a surgeon performing a delicate operation, carefully probing inside a body to understand its anatomy without causing damage. This was not a reckless search for treasure. It was a meticulous archaeological investigation, a slow and methodical act of rediscovery. With picks and shovels, workers began digging into the side of the hill, and almost immediately, they hit not just dirt and rock, but man-made walls, ancient stairways leading to nowhere, and the remains of altars. The tunnels they carved opened a doorway into a hidden world, confirming Marquina's greatest hopes. Today, this network of tunnels stretches for an astonishing 8 kilometers. That's about 5 miles of underground passages cutting right through the pyramid's core. Walking through these tunnels today is like stepping into a time machine. The walls are not smooth. They are a rough patchwork of different colors and textures, a visible timeline of construction. You are literally walking through history, seeing the different phases laid bare. One section might show the rough, dark stone and clay of the earliest builders. A few steps further, you pass a wall of perfectly fitted stones and painted plaster from a later, more advanced culture. The air is cool and still, and the only sound is the echo of footsteps. This labyrinth doesn't just lead you through a pyramid. It leads you through centuries, telling the story of each civilization that left its mark, layer by layer by layer. The rediscovery of the giant was not about finding a single object, but about uncovering the very timeline of ancient Mesoamerica, a physical library of history preserved in stone and earth, all made accessible by the simple, brave decision to start digging inward. Voices from the past. The true voice of the Great Pyramid of Cholula doesn't come from a single dramatic shout. It comes from a chorus of whispers recovered piece by piece from within its ancient walls. The tunnels opened the way, but the real conversations with the past began with the breathtaking art and artifacts left behind by the people who built and worshipped there. These discoveries transformed the pyramid from a silent mountain into a vibrant archive of daily life and deep belief. At the base of the great structure, archaeologists uncovered a vast open space known as the patio of the altars. This was not a hidden chamber, but a public square, a main entrance for worshippers for centuries. Imagine a massive courtyard surrounded by platforms with a central altar for ceremonies. This was a busy, active nerve center of the pyramid's religious life, but the findings here revealed a complex and, to our modern minds, a darker side of that spirituality. Evidence suggests that this patio was a site for ritual offerings of immense importance. Among the most poignant and sobering discoveries were the remains of children. Analysis indicates these children were part of sacred ceremonies, likely offerings to the rain god Tlaloc, meant to ensure the survival of the community through fertile rains and good harvests. This is a difficult truth to confront, but it speaks to the profound seriousness of their beliefs. The patio was a place where the community confronted life, death, and the divine, believing their actions here maintained the very balance of the world. Then, in 1969, a discovery was made that sent waves through the archaeological world. Deep within the pyramid's core, workers clearing a narrow passage broke through a wall and found themselves face to face with a stunning piece of history. It was a mural, but not a small one. This painting stretched for an incredible 57 meters, making it one of the longest pre-Columbian murals ever found in the Americas. Discovered in 1969, the mural dates to approximately 200 to 450 CE, based on its location within Teotihuacan-influenced construction layers. It depicts over 110 individual figures consuming pulque, a fermented beverage made from agave sap. It is called El Mural de los Bebedores, the mural of the drinkers. The scene it presents is both familiar and mysterious. It depicts over 100 human figures engaged in what appears to be a lively drinking ritual. They are consuming pulque, a fermented drink made from the sap of the maguey plant. The figures are not static or formal. They are dynamic. Some are laughing, some seem to be in solemn conversation, and others appear to be in states of ecstasy or even drunkenness. They are surrounded by plants and what seem to be large ceramic vessels for the drink. This mural is far more than a simple party scene. It is a powerful window into ancient society. It shows us that pulque was not just an everyday beverage, but a sacred substance, a ritual tool used to communicate with the gods. The variety of figures, from the ornately dressed to the more simply clothed, hints at a complex social hierarchy where people of different statuses came together for a common spiritual purpose. The mural captures a moment of communal transcendence, a sacred ceremony where the community bonded through a shared, mind-altering experience. It is a snapshot of life in all its vibrant, spiritual, and human complexity. Beyond this famous mural, the pyramid has yielded other beautiful and puzzling artworks. In other sections, archaeologists found the mural of the grasshoppers, or chapulins, which shows rows of these insects. Archaeologists theorize these may symbolize agricultural fertility or abundance, as grasshoppers appear in Mesoamerican codices associated with maize cultivation. However, their exact symbolic meaning remains debated among scholars, a specific part of a natural cycle. There is also the mural of the beetles, with its detailed and repetitive patterns of insects. These are not random doodles. They are deliberate artistic choices, likely full of symbolic meaning that connected the people to their environment, their cosmology, and their myths. Together, these voices from the past, the solemn altars, the vibrant drinking ceremony, the symbolic insects, paint a rich and nuanced portrait of the people of Cholula. They were a people who understood the solemn duty of sacrifice, but who also celebrated life with vibrant community rituals. They saw the divine not only in grand temples, but in the grasshopper and the beetle, in the sap of a plant, and in the act of coming together. The pyramids safeguarded these stories for a millennium, and now they finally speak again, telling us of the sophisticated, spiritual, and deeply human world that thrived long before our own. Recent revelations and ongoing research. The story of the Great Pyramid of Cholula is far from over. The initial excavations opened the door, but today, a new chapter of discovery is being written. This modern chapter relies less on shovels and more on sophisticated technology that allows archaeologists to see through the earth, revealing secrets without ever breaking the ground. The pyramid is now giving up its secrets in ways its builders could never have imagined. The new era of exploration uses tools that sound like they are from science fiction. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses of energy into the earth, painting a picture of what lies beneath by reading the echoes that bounce back. Surveys conducted in the early 2000s revealed the pyramid sites on a massive artificial platform extending well beyond its base. This discovery suggested ancient Cholula covered approximately 5 square kilometers, comparable to ancient Athens in size. LiDAR technology uses lasers shot from an airplane to map the ground surface, effectively digitally stripping away the modern town and vegetation to reveal the ghostly outlines of long-buried structures. These methods are like giving the archaeologists a powerful X-ray vision. What are they seeing with this vision? They have confirmed that the pyramid we see is just the heart of a much larger organism. The scans show that the pyramid is surrounded by a massive platform, a huge leveled area extending from its base. This was not an empty space. It was covered in structures, residential compounds, smaller temples, and ceremonial platforms. This discovery redefines Cholula from a site with a big pyramid into a densely packed ancient metropolis, a city designed around its central, sacred mountain. The scale of the urban settlement was far grander than previously believed. This brings us to the Great Platform Project, an ongoing archaeological effort focused on excavating this vast area. By digging here at the pyramid's feet, researchers are uncovering the daily life that pulsed around the sacred center. They are finding evidence of the people who served the temple, the artisans, the priests, the traders, and the farmers. They are uncovering pottery, tools, and the foundations of homes, piecing together a vibrant picture of a living, breathing city that supported the spiritual activities of the pyramid for over 1,000 years. However, this incredible past is facing very modern threats. The ancient city of Cholula is buried beneath a modern one. Urban expansion, with its new construction and infrastructure, constantly pressures the unprotected parts of the archaeological zone. Every new building foundation risks cutting into an undiscovered structure. Furthermore, environmental factors like erosion and pollution slowly wear away at the ancient adobe bricks and exposed murals, threatening their very existence. Adobe is particularly vulnerable to water damage. The Mexican National Institute of Anthropology and History, INAH, coordinates ongoing preservation, focusing on drainage systems to prevent water accumulation and stabilizing treatments for exposed surfaces. This is a race against time, and the focus is now as much on preservation as it is on discovery. Conservationists work tirelessly to stabilize the ancient structures, protecting them from the elements and the passage of time. Their work ensures that the parts of the site we have already uncovered will survive for future generations to study and appreciate. And what of the future? The most exciting thought is this: after all this time, with all our technology and digging, we have only scratched the surface, literally. The vast, overwhelming majority of the Great Pyramid of Cholula and the city that surrounded it remains unexcavated, protected by the very earth that hid it for so long. The tunnels explore only a fraction of the interior. The Great Platform is mostly mapped by radar, not by trowel. This means the pyramid is a gift that will keep on giving. It is a living library, with most of its books still unread. The decisions we make today about preserving this site will determine what secrets are revealed tomorrow. The final word on Cholula has not been written. With every passing year, with every new technological advance, we get closer to hearing the next whisper from the past, waiting patiently beneath the grass and the streets. The Living Mountain. The journey of the Great Pyramid of Cholula is one of breathtaking transformation, a narrative written not on paper, but in layers of earth and stone. It began as a sacred site, a humble platform where a community connected with the divine. Over 1,000 years, it grew into a colossal man-made mountain through the continuous effort of diverse cultures, each adding a new chapter to this immense project. Then, for centuries, it slumbered. Mistaken for a simple hill, its true identity hidden under grass and the very church that crowned its summit. Its modern rebirth as an archaeological wonder reveals a patience spanning millennia, a testament waiting silently for the right moment to share its secrets. Today, the pyramid stands as a profound symbol of Mexico's complex and layered heart. It is a physical dialogue between epochs, a permanent monument to the nation's dual heritage. The ancient, indigenous structure forms the vast body of the land, the foundation upon which everything else rests. The colonial church sits at its summit, representing a pivotal later period that reshaped the continent. They exist together in a powerful, unspoken conversation, one rooted in the other, presenting an undeniable truth about history itself. That it is not a series of clean endings and beginnings, but a continuous, often challenging process of building, adapting, and enduring. The world-changing significance of Cholula isn't a hidden treasure chamber. It's what the pyramid demonstrates about human cooperation across time and culture. In an era facing challenges that require multi-generational commitment, climate change, infrastructure, sustainable development, Cholula proves that diverse cultures successfully collaborated across centuries toward shared goals. The builders started projects they knew they'd never see completed, trusting future generations would continue the work. This philosophy of building upon rather than destroying what came before offers a model for civilizations that must plan beyond single lifetimes. This living mountain reminds us that the most profound truths are not always hidden in secret, but are often built right into the landscape, waiting for us to finally see them for what they are. The conversation with the past is not over. The pyramid itself is an active participant, and with every new archaeological scan, with every careful excavation, we learn to listen more closely. Its final message may be that human achievement is a collective endeavor, and that the greatest monuments are those that tell the continuous saga of the people who built them, layer by patient layer. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.